Apple just wrapped up one of the more exciting WWDCs to date. It was jam-packed with tons of new features for iOS, macOS, tvOS, and watchOS. And so in this video, here's everything that Apple announced at WWDC 2019. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to get notifications whenever we share a video. Apple jumped right into it, starting off with the tvOS, and as expected, this was a bit of a minor update, but with a few new notable upgrades. The updates start at the new home screen, which Apple said is designed for discovery. Apps on the dock can now play full-screen video previews on the home screen instead of just showcasing still images. The big new addition to Apple TV with tvOS 13 is support for multiple user profiles using the new Apple TV Control Center. With this feature, you can easily switch between family members and change entire aspects of the operating system depending on who is using it. This means that individual family members will have their own up next list on the TV app, see their own TV and movie recommendations based on their tastes, as well as receive their own curated suggestions in Apple Music. For gamers and those who are planning on partaking in the new Apple Arcade service that's dropping later this year, you can now also connect two third-party controllers to an Apple TV 4K. The Xbox One and PlayStation 4 DualShock controllers can now be used for a better gaming experience. Lastly, Apple TV 4K devices will gain new 4K Hdr Screen Savers that were filmed in collaboration with the BBC Natural History Unit. These screensavers are focused on underwater locations and showcase the depths of the oceans around the world. Moving on to watchOS 6, users get fresh new watch faces, including a new gradient watch face that animates with the time, a digital face that looks more modern, and a California dial. There are several new apps to showcase, including audiobooks, voice memos, and a calculator app, while a new Apple Watch App Store will allow users to purchase and download apps directly to their watch, bypassing the iPhone. In addition, watchOS 6 brings several new health and fitness features for Apple Watch, including a cycle tracking app, an app for measuring the level of ambient noise around you to protect your hearing health, and a new Trends tab in the Activity app. Next up is iOS 13, and Apple started it off with what we were all officially waiting for, and that's dark mode. Dark mode has been implemented across the iPhone and iPad operating system and its native apps, including the appearance of notifications, widgets, calendar, and notes. It looks pretty stunning with certain applications, especially in apps like Notes, Music, and Messages. One of the more underrated announcements in my opinion is the new swipe to type feature to the stock iOS keyboard called QuickPath. We had swipe to type available via third-party keyboards, but this is the first time coming to stock keyboard, and I am very excited to check it out. There was also a rather large update to the Photos application with a bunch of different editing sliders and tools to take your pictures and now videos to the next level. The new Photos tab allows for a better curated look at all of your photos from every day, month, and year, cutting out all the unnecessary junk like screenshots. Messages received a small update that adds user profiles so that you can share your name, photo, and Emoji with people when you message them. So there's no more guessing who just messaged you even if you don't have them in your contacts. Speaking of Memoji, there are more customization options available as well as new Memoji stickers which can actually be created and used on iPhones that do not have the TrueDepth camera system. The Reminders app has been redesigned for the ground up, making it far more useful in my opinion and can even integrate with certain contacts who are tagged on a reminder. iOS 13 is packed with loads of new improvements and refinements that we'll touch on in future videos, but some other quick notable updates include the option to have Siri announce messages on AirPods, and AirPods audio sharing, which allows users to pair two sets of AirPods to one iPhone at the same time to watch the same movie or listen to the same music together. There's a new Find My app which combines Find My iPhone as well as Find My Friends and can even track devices that are offline by leveraging Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connected devices around your lost iPhone, iPad, Mac, etc. Carplay received a massive update with a new look, new calendar app, and just overall improvements to the UI that should make using Carplay feel much more enjoyable. As I mentioned before, iOS 13 is packed with tons of new features that we'll go over starting tomorrow and over the next few weeks in the course of different videos, so be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss those videos. We didn't even get into the iPad specific features in iOS 13 because it's not actually a part of iOS 13, but rather its own operating system now called iPadOS. iPadOS now gives the ability to use multiple apps in slide over as well as multiple apps in split view, taking your workflow to the next level. You can cycle through your various slide over apps easily or fan them out to quickly switch between them. Users can now use two windows of the same application, like two different notes side by side or two different Safari websites side by side, and the new expose option makes it easy to see all of those spaces that you have open with a single app just by tapping the app icon inside of the dock. There's a new home screen for the iPad, which finally brings widgets to your home screen, kind of. Essentially, it shrinks your app rows down a bit and slides over your Today View widget window into one screen. It's not totally customizable, but it's better than nothing at this point, and I do really like the look of this so far. The Apple Pencil also got a bit of an update with a new tool palette available that looks much more modern and intuitive than its predecessor. Full page markup is easier than ever by simply dragging your pencil from the corner of the screen in any app to take a screenshot and then annotate. There are even new gestures for copy and paste and undo. We will go over more of these gestures in depth in our dedicated iPad OS video in the next few days. iPad OS also gives users a better Files app with a new column view, access to files from a server or home PC right from the Files app, as well as support for external hard drives, SD card readers, and a USB drive can now be connected to iPad Pros via the USB-C port. Safari gained true desktop class browsing, which will automatically give desktop versions of websites with full features, all perfectly designed to fit your iPad, as well as a new downloads manager for files. iPad OS is obviously built in iOS 13, and so all of the same features talked about in iOS 13 carry over to iPad OS alongside the new iPad-specific features that I just mentioned. And finally, wrapping up the keynote, we have macOS, officially named macOS Catalina. Apple started off this announcement by actually announcing new hardware with the new Mac Pros and Pro Display XDR. The new Mac Pro is an absolute powerhouse with up to 28-core Intel Xeon processors, up to 1.5 terabytes of ECC RAM, up to 4 terabytes of SSD storage. You also can get AMD Radeon Pro Vega 2 Duo graphics with 64 gigabytes of HBM2 memory and 8 PCIe expansion slots for maximum performance, expansion, and configurability. The new design includes a stainless steel frame with smooth handles and an aluminum housing that lifts off for a 360-degree access to the entire system. The housing also features a stunning lattice pattern, which has already been referred to as a cheese grater, to maximize airflow and quiet operation. Apple says the new Mac Pro starts at $5,999 in the United States with an 8-core Intel Xeon processor, 32 gigs of ECC RAM, an AMD WX 7100 graphics card, and 256 gigs of SSD storage will be available to order later in the fall. Apple also introduced a new 32-inch 6K display named the Pro Display XDR starting at $5,000. The new LCD monitor features a 6016 by 3384 resolution display and 20 million pixels. It uses a direct backlighting system with a large array of LEDs able to produce 1000 nits of full screen brightness and 1600 nits of peak brightness. It's more than 40% bigger than Apple's iMac 5K display and offers users P3 wide color, 10-bit, and several reference modes. Now, for those of us who don't have at least $12,000 to spend on the new Duo, macOS Catalina will offer some new and improved features as free update coming later this fall. The company started off by announcing the future of iTunes, which will be divided into 3 apps: Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, and Apple TV. This means the traditional iTunes app will be going away in macOS Catalina, and device management will now be done in the Finder. Apple announced Sidecar, a way to use the iPad as an extended display for your Mac. This gives artists the chance to use an Apple Pencil and draw on their iPad and quickly jump into an editing program on their Mac for the same artwork. Apple also announced Project Catalyst, which is the new system that allows for developers to create a Mac version of their iPhone and iPad apps by simply checking the Mac box inside of Xcode. This should drastically increase the number of Mac apps now available in macOS, bringing new versions of popular apps like Twitter back to the Mac. This was one of the largest WWDC keynotes that I have ever seen, and there was a lot of new updates and new features that we didn't even get to mention, but we'll be covering them in depth over the course of the next few weeks. So be sure to visit MacRumors.com for far more information on today's events, and be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more of our videos in the future. This has been Dan with Mac Rumors. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.